Hi there, welcome to Bloodhaus, the show where we talk about art house horror movies. I'm your host, Joshua Conkel.
And I am your blonde-haired and revenge-minded co-host, Drusilla Adeline. Welcome to another episode of Bloodhaus. How are you doing, Josh?
Yay! I'm good. I'm just having a quiet day, puttering around the house, did a little jog, shopping for groceries, all that kind
Oh
of
my God,
stuff.
I
How about
love
you?
a putter. I love a little putter.
It's
Just a
my whole
pizza
life.
putter. Oh my God. I've had the opposite of a day. I've had a very active day. I'm very, very sweaty at this point of
Uh-huh.
recording.
hmm
We just bought a Victorian dining table
I
and
know, I'm
moved it into our
so
house.
jealous. It's so gorgeous.
It's really, really beautiful. My prior dining room table was fairly nice. It was like handmade in Italy in like 2002 or something like that that
Whoa.
we found on the curb in Glendale when I moved into
Uh-huh.
this apartment. But a friend of my partner is currently moving and downsizing, who has a lot of antique furniture,
hmm
and they were getting rid of it's a 12-piece dining set. It's
Oh my God, that's
it
so
like
cool.
it's got multiple leaves in the table, so it can be a four top or it can be a 12 top and everything in between. And I don't plan on hosting any like Fanny and Alexander parties anytime soon.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll stay like 4 to 6, but it's handcrafted in Paris from the late 1800s.
Ugh.
It's outrageously beautiful. Like the underside and all the chairs look like they're designed to match like church confessionals. It's
Jesus.
outrageous. And it was a very,
Oh,
very, very good deal because they were friends of ours. They said they got it off of an elderly woman in Calabasas years
hmm
ago whose sister had lived in France and had bought it there and had come across on like a ship. Like, it's ridiculous. And so Ivory and I just decided, okay, cool, let's rent a U-Haul. We didn't pay any money for the table that we have. Let's just give it away on Facebook Marketplace. Someone picked it up this morning, and we spent
Uh-huh.
all day trucking around, getting a U-Haul, driving down to your side of town, over in the Miracle Mile, picking up this whole insanely huge table and the whole set, all these chairs, and then bringing it back here and setting it up, just the two of us. And we are not, for all the fitness talk of late, we are not that muscle minded. So it was a lot of like building cantilevers with fucking.
Right. You're both pretty dainty ladies, so just the two of you
Yeah.
carrying a giant table in and off a truck is a lot to imagine.
It wasn't the best, but it's in. Ivory is like in the middle of setting it up because she doesn't trust me to do it, and because we have a podcast. So wait, um, but yeah, as soon as it's up, there will be many dinner party over here. It looks so beautiful.
I love
Oh,
that. There's very little that I care about more than interior design and furniture and
this is
antiques.
true.
Which is why my favorite horror movie is Rosemary's Baby. I could give like an hour and a half long PowerPoint presentation on interior design and production design in Rosemary's Baby. Like I could wing it. I don't even have to plan it. I could wing it. That's how much I love it.
You do need some like mid-century Formica tables, like Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah,
Ivory
I
and I
love
have
mid-century
one.
stuff.
It's just in storage because we don't have space for it.
Well, I do need it. I would like to eventually get, it's not a priority because I do have a dining room table that seats six, but we do have a formal dining room in this apartment. So I would like to
Oh,
have like a little bit larger, nicer table.
mm-hmm. Oh
Yeah.
God, that's the goal. It's to someday live somewhere that I can have a formal dining room. Yeah, I'm sure you have a gorgeous one. We
It's
we
okay.
were just at too many of my friends have nice formal dining rooms now. I'm at that point in my life where I'm like,
Yeah, it starts to
time to
happen
move
around
on up.
30.
Yeah.
Well, other people in my building, it's a fourplex, and other people have used that as like a TV room. They decided not to have a formal dining room because the
Hmm.
actual living room has a fireplace and it's a 100-year-old building, so it's designed in such a way, it's hard to explain on a podcast, but there's not a great place to put a
See,
television.
oh, I very much understand as someone who lives in Los Angeles, and I also really respect that you, like me, also snoop on your neighbors' living plans.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have opted to put the sofa in the center of the room, like
Very
in the
smart,
center of
very
the
smart,
room
very smart.
with the TV mounted to a wall, but not too high. So if you put the TV above the fireplace, this is like an entirely different subject matter podcast. I don't like a TV above a fireplace because it's too high,
Yeah.
and you'll hurt your neck. And then it's my living room and is laid out in such a way that it would both be too high and at an angle, so you would be like looking up at outer space. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know, perpendicular. It just doesn't work. So yeah, I whatever. This is not important. Have you been watching anything cool lately?
Oh my God. Anyway, on an entirely different subject. Yes, I
Yeah.
went to the theater twice this past week. And I saw two movies, like modern art house, much talked about fave that I know you saw, so we'll get to that in a second.
Hmm.
And one that's a lot more grindhouse and silly and fun and few less brain cells required to enjoy it.
Great.
Um, I saw the new Guy Ritchie movie, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, with
Uh-huh.
Henry Cavill and Carrie Elways. Bless his darling
Hmm.
little heart.
Love him.
It, it was really good.
You kind of like Guy Ritchie, right? Like
I
that's
I do kind of have a thing for Madonna's ex-husband in terms as a filmmaker. I'm not saying that like I want to bang him. I'm just
right.
saying like that's pretty good. Ivory and I first like moved our relationship from being friends into like actually dating each other the night after we saw his last like big dumb action movie, Operation Fortune Ruse de Guerre, which all of nobody saw.
I've never heard of that movie in my whole long
It was
life.
supposed to come out 2 years ago and then got delayed because the villains in it were Ukrainian, and they're like, "Ooh, you can't be doing
Oh,
that."
yeah, you talked about this on the show one time. I remember.
And so like special place in our heart. But also like The Man from Uncle was super fun. I love Snatch. I love Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. He has a lot of bad movies though. So I'm not like giving him a pass. And every time he's like of late, it feels like he's got a new movie every year. Um, like what the hell is The Covenant that came out last year? What the hell is Wrath of Man? I've never heard of these, but these have been he has a whole TV show on Netflix right now. Like
What's it called?
the Gentleman, a spin-off of his movie, The
Oh
Gentleman.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
I
his new movie, Ungentlemanly Warfare, has nothing to do with The Gentleman. However, it's a goddamn delight. I don't know.
I've never seen a Guy Ritchie movie, so I have no
You've
opinions about him at
never
all.
seen a Guy Ritchie movie?
No, never.
They're not really your thing. I'm gonna say that.
No.
I feel like you would maybe like Man from Uncle.
You know, I remember when Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, that was his first big thing, right?
Hmm.
Like, I remember that coming out and being like a moment. But at the time, I actually really love Quentin Tarantino, which is the thing that you and I don't necessarily have in common. But I was like, this is just feels like a Tarantino ripoff.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of his stuff is, especially his early stuff, is very like, oh, UK geezers going around stealing some from a kind of like British gangland movies,
Yeah, yeah,
um, which are very like, what if the Long Good Friday, Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese, and a boatload of cocaine had a baby?
yeah.
It's these movies, and they're fun. By his like original production company, Ska Films, which is
Ew. It's
like
embarrassing.
the biggest name in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels was Sting. Like,
Who's a great actor,
who's a
actually.
very good actor. He's incredible in Quadrophenia and Dune.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but his movies very much are like throwback to 70s action movies, 70s gangster movies, exploitation movies, and the same way that Tarantino is. So it's not that he's a Tarantino knockoff. It's more that
That they have the same references.
they're reaching to the same well.
I mean, I can
And
get into that. I like the French Connection and shit like that from the 70s, so
yeah,
maybe I would like it.
then his new one is a fucking humdinger. Like it is just a really taut, well put together, like action war exploitation movie in the same way that Inglorious Bastards is also riffing on like those Robert Aldrich movies from the 70s, like The Dirty Dozen.
Hmm.
Um, Also I'm thinking of like there's like Alistair MacLean adaptations like Where Eagles Dare. and
Hmm.
Von Ryan's Express, and like these are very specific dad movies. If
Yeah,
you
very
have
dad
like a
movies.
baby boomer father who's very into like Clint Eastwood, World War II, or like Guns of the Navarone, or like anything where like a ragtag group of like miscreants of like famous international cast has to get together and they've got to do a mission to bust up the Nazis, and like they've always like got to go to a place. It's kind of an adventure, kind of espionage, but they're always going to blow shit up and shoot a bunch of people at the end. It always goes wild bunch by the end. And like that kind of movie was like a microcosm for like 10 years or like eight
Yeah,
years in the 70s.
yeah.
Watched a fuck ton of them during lockdown because they're kind of like candy or like film noir movies or giallo movies where it's so formulaic that you're like, all right, I know what we're in for. I just want to watch Charles Bronson shoot some people up. That's fine. And he's just doing the same thing again with Henry Golding and Henry Cavill and Isaac Gonzalez, all doing this. Till Schweiger from SLC Punk and Atomic Blonde and Inglourious
Hmm.
Bastards is in it. It's really, really, really fun. And the soundtrack is the whole original score is a throwback to the 70s Ennio Morricone scores.
Whoa,
It's
yeah.
really good. Like better than it has any fucking right to be from like Guy Ritchie World War II actioner. And it's also like based on actual undisclosed, like recently disclosed Churchill documents from like 2016 that we didn't know about until very recently,
Hmm.
which is interesting. There's also some dumb stuff about it, how like one of the characters is literally the guy who wrote James Bond, Ian Ian
Oh, I have no
Fleming.
idea. Yeah.
So literally there'll be like, "Oh, oi, Ian, what you think about like Cockney's bad."
Yeah.
Um, but
You're
it's
like
like,
Dick Van Dyke and, and
"Oh, Mary Poppins."
which did you know, like uniformly, if you ask any British person what the worst British accent on screen is going to be,
I was
they're
gonna say
all going
that.
to say Dick Van Dyke.
Even though one of my favorite performances ever kind of deserves that, which is Keanu Reeves and Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, it's terrible. But I find that sort of charming now. I've kind of like come around on him in Dracula. I like him in Dracula.
I've come around on it. However, all the people who rag on him in Dracula don't say a goddamn peep when it comes to him in what's it called? With Michelle Pfeiffer and John Malkovich, that Cruel
No
Intentions is
idea.
based on.
Oh, Dangerous Liaisons.
Dangerous Liaisons. They
Yeah.
don't say shit about Keanu in Dangerous Liaisons because he's doing the exact same accent. He gives the exact same performance that he does in Dracula, but no one talks about it. Everyone
Yeah.
loves Dangerous Liaisons. They talk about how sexy it is, how great Michelle Pfeiffer is, how great Uma Thurman is. Absolutely no comment on that. And then you get to Dracula and it's like, oh, fucking so ruined by him. Meanwhile, Carrie Elways and Richard E. Grant are stealing every fucking scene they're in.
I think it's
Anyway.
just that Keanu has to carry more of Dracula than he does Dangerous Liaisons.
That's fair. But also, like, Jonathan Harker's supposed to be an idiot
Yeah,
from
I
my
think it
reading of the
works.
novel.
Yeah, I think it totally works. And I think it makes it feel more like a classic film in that it harkens back to the studio system where people were
Hmm.
contracted to be in movies whether they fit the role or not. So they were just going to squeeze you into that movie whether you were right for it
Yeah.
or not based on your contract. So it feels like that to me too, in a good way.
It's so funny watching like old like costume period pieces from like MGM and like the 30s and 40s where you're like, oh my God, okay, it's Greta Garbo and she's gonna be playing like Queen Christina or whatever. But this is like a prestigious movie. And then the supporting cast is all like character actors that are mostly from Preston Sturges comedies. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Right. It's like Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra, which
Yeah.
she's great in. It's a great movie and she's great in it, but it's like not who you would initially think of for the role, perhaps.
Anyway, what
Yeah,
is
speaking
the
of
thing that
sexy movies,
yes, especially sexy movies?
yeah, you and I both saw this, I happen to know. I wonder if you liked it as much as I did. We both saw Challengers by Luca Guadagnino. What did you
Hmm.
think?
I liked it.
Me too.
Like full
Liked, not
stop.
loved.
Liked, not loved. I
Yeah.
feel like I was sold a bill of goods that I didn't receive.
Really?
Feel like all the marketing of the movie is like, it's so sexy and it's so scandalous and you won't believe the tensions and all this kinds of stuff. And it was maybe one of the least sexy movies I've seen this year.
I think it's a very sexy movie, but I not compared to movies of the past. Like we live in such a prudish time where like there's barely any sex in movies and television shows. So by that standard, I think it's pretty hot, but it
I
wouldn't be
mean,
considered sexy in the 90s or the 80s.
there's like one very sexy scene, maybe two or three, but one very sexy scene, but there's never any actual sex.
No. Yeah, not at all.
It's really kind of insane that there's actually no sex in Challengers, and that's kind of blowing
Well,
my
there's like
mind.
the college dorm scene when she's in that like lacy bra and
But
we don't actually watch them
that's
have sex, but
foreplay. Yeah.
yeah.
The
But
whole movie is
Josh O'Connor's
foreplay.
legs are pretty good. That game's got some pretty good legs.
I thought it was very, very, very good. I mean, the standout thing is the same thing that's a standout in the Guy Ritchie movie is the fucking score. My God, the Trent
Trent
Reznor
Reznor's
score and
score is
Atticus Ross
so
is
good. I loved it. I loved it. I thought, and I also, it was the first time I've always liked her, but it was the first time I'm like, oh, Zendaya is a movie star. Like,
yeah.
she's so magnetic and has such presence. I don't think the two men really compete with her in that regard. They're both good, but she's such a star, and it's so obvious to me. My thing about it was that like I really liked it, but I felt like on a script level, it never kind of ignites or goes deeper. It's sort of like,
Yeah.
I can't help but compare it to Call Me by Your Name, which is another sexy movie by the same director, which is a lot better because it has that incredible scene between the kid and his dad at the end, and the dad has this like beautiful, devastatingly sad speech that kind of brings the movie home. And I just felt like there was never anything in this that like brought the movie home in some way, and it just sort of maintained a flat line throughout.
Well, that's a bit of an unfair comparison because not only is that movie based on a book, the screenplay was done by James Ivory, who's one of the single greatest filmmakers
I
of the
mean,
past like 50 years.
that
So
movie's
it's
incredible.
yeah.
It's so incredible. I love that movie.
I I will say the script was probably the weakest part of Challengers for me, which is unfortunate since it's this
Yeah.
writer's first script. Who, by the way, he's married to Celine Song.
Yeah, they're both playwrights, so I'm like
Yeah.
very loosely connected to them by friends and stuff. But he's a pretty successful playwright, so it's not his first thing that he's ever written. He's a
Yes, it's
man in
just
his
for the
30s,
film. Yeah.
very well-known playwright, but it's
It's
his first
just
film.
very funny that they've both written very acclaimed films and she directed about like thruples more or less.
I know.
And like I just like I want to know what kind of play on like off-Broadway play their third is currently working on.
I mean, listen, don't accept an invite to a board game night at their house unless you want to get into some stuff. I mean,
If they have
come
flamingos in
prepared.
their lawn, maybe drive a little bit faster. Um no, I thought it was really the thing about the movie is that the script is a little lacking, especially in terms of like closure and narrative push.
Yeah,
But what it lacks in that, Guadagnino more than makes up in the like style and in
style is
the
great.
like
Beautifully directed.
in the way that he films that final tennis set piece. That like through the final like half of the movie, I was kind of losing me on the script here. It's kind of like this feels like a little paint by numbers. This is a little unfortunate. And then as soon as we got that sequence, I was like, oh, okay, he pulled it off.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels, and I don't necessarily mean this in a like derogatory way. It kind of feels like an Aaron spelling project, but elevated by an incredible director. It feels soapy and sexy, and could be like,
PG-13 enough.
yeah, it could be a TV movie in a different time. But it's just he's such a good director, and these are such good actors that it elevates it a bit. But yeah, it's like soap opera stuff.
Josh O'Connor was a standout performance-wise for me. I thought he was fucking incredible.
Yeah, I thought he was good, and he's
Yeah.
great legs. I'll say that again.
You do get to see a lot of both of those two men.
Yeah. And I think actually depending, your sense of how sexy this movie is depends on how much you're attracted to men, maybe, because
That's
they are
also,
so hot and like
and they
it's
spend the
all about their
entire
bodies.
movie. Yes, it's very much about their bodies, it's very much about their legs, very much about their chest, their hair, and like the way they move on the court, and about their sweat. Like, so, like there was. I think my biggest takeaway from it was like, oh yeah, I'm not as attracted to men as most people. Got it.
This is a director who
Understood.
really knows how to film the male form, you
Oh
know?
yes. Oh yes. That's like his whole thing.
Yeah, thank God. Um,
Speaking of
well,
incredible European filmmakers
I mean, we're gonna
and
do
challenging sex.
yeah, we're gonna do a brief little run, I guess, of like true auteurs. And this first movie, I'll just say, is by Ingmar Bergman. And we when we first started the show, we had a segment for a while, an unofficial segment called the Bergman Report, because a listener who's now become like a pretty good internet friend of mine named Greg, I had mentioned on the show that I had never seen a Bergman movie. And so he messaged me and said, hey, I just got the giant Bergman box set. So I have all of these old DVDs and Blu-rays. Do you want them? And so I said yes. And he sent very kindly sent me all of them. And so I went
So
on a run
incredible.
of watching all of these Bergman movies, which I loved, of course. Cries and Whispers, Seventh Seal, Wild Strawberry. I mean, I just loved them. But one that was not included was The Virgin Spring, which I'd always wanted to see. Oh, so that's the movie of the day. It's The Virgin Spring. And last week we covered the movie Inside, which is a home invasion movie. And preparing to do that episode made me realize, like, oh, we should talk about Virgin Spring because it is really, in part, a home invasion movie and inspired The Last House on the Left, even classic horror movie that I'm sure many of our listeners have seen. So the movie of today is directed by Ingmar Bergman from 1960, The Virgin Spring. You have seen this before.
Yes.
Uh, you love this movie, I assume.
Uh, I don't think I can think of a Bergman movie I don't love, honestly.
Yeah.
I I like that almost everyone I know who gets into Bergman does like a run on his career in like
Hmm.
one way or another. Um, Never all of the films in his career, because it's truly insane how many movies that man made.
Yeah.
Because the like art house classics that we talk about from him start in the late 50s and then go through like the 70s into the early 80s. But everyone forgets that like he was also like a studio filmmaker of melodramas and comedies since like the 40s. So he's got like 15 years of like Swedish melodramas like Port of Call and like A Ship to India that like are also in that Criterion box set, and like no one talks about the same way they talk about these. But when I was in high school and I was first getting into art house movies, The Seventh Seal was one of the first ones that I watched, and it like moved me in a
Mind-blowing
way
movie.
that movies never had before. It's one of my favorite films of all time.
It's
I recently
incredible.
had the amazing fortune to see it again in theaters at the New Beverly, paired with Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Um, and I
Perfect
got to
double.
take Ivory there. It was her first experience with Bergman, and then I got to show her Virgin Spring when I rewatched it for this. But I saw Virgin Spring in like a tear of Bergman movies at the age of like 14 or 15. So it's been a long, long time. And I was watching it at the same time I was watching Winter Light and Through a Glass Darkly and Wild
Hmm.
Strawberries and Smiles of a Summer Night and like so Persona and so many other ones that it kind of like I remembered the beats of it, but I didn't remember a lot of it specifically because a lot of he works with like a recurring troupe of actors, more or less, that like come in and out of them. And a lot of them are set in medieval times, or they're set in contemporary times, or will have flashbacks. And they're always shot by especially at this point in time, his career, by Sven Nykvist, who's one of the most incredible cinematographers and looks
And this was
beautiful
his
in black and
first
white.
this was his first collaboration with Sven Nykvist.
Oh my God, they're
Yeah.
just stunning. And so revisiting for this like independently and not like in the middle of a whole bunch of other Bergman movies, but just watching it as its own, it really, really affected me emotionally in a way that only
Me
Bergman
too.
movies can.
This was my first time watching it. I could not have loved it more. It's so I just loved it so much. And I was, I went to the letterboxd as I always do after I finished it. And of course, most people love this and give it 4.5 or 5 stars, which it deserves.
Yeah.
Occasionally, someone would give it a lower score and say that it's shallow, which I find so mind-boggling. Because to me, this is shallow in the way that the tarot deck is shallow. It has all of these archetypical images that have incredible depth and resonance and like intuitive emotional attachment to us as a species. Uh,
Hmm.
it it's such an incredible movie. It has such deep, rich symbolism. On a story level, yes, it's very simple and spare, but every single image is so rich and deep and meaningful to me. I loved it. I just like
Rewatching this,
loved it
it
more.
really struck me how much this film in particular, but also this moment of Bergman's career when he was making like Hour of the Wolf and The Magician and stuff like that, like the late 50s, early 60s, after the international success of Seven Seal and Wild Strawberries, and he was kind of put on a larger stage, had a larger pedestal to work with. Um, that it's his writing is truly like because he also comes from theater. He was also a playwright and has a very
Mhm.
like personal relationship with theater. Um, it's like grim fairy tales or like Shakespeare at this point.
Yeah, and in fact, this is based on a Swedish folktale. So it is on a story level quite simple, which is part of why it's so effective, I think. It operates on that like mythic fairy tale kind of level in on one sense. And but on another sense, like the tarot deck, it's just chock full of images that are like really deep and meaningful and you can like kind of get in there and discuss. Um so on a story level, I guess the synopsis, it's very simple. We are in medieval Sweden at a particularly painful moment for the country, I'm given to understand, where paganism is falling and Christianity is spreading. So we are in the house of a well-to-do family who have a young teenage daughter who's a virgin, and she is sent to deliver candles to the church, which is a day's journey away, and they have to be taken, I guess, by a virgin's tradition. So to guide their daughter, they also send a servant, Ingari, who's an unwed mother and is the complete opposite of their daughter. And on the journey, they part ways in a way that we'll get to, I'm sure. But the daughter, Karen, the virgin, is raped and murdered, which leads to the killers, who are a trio of brothers, find the family's house, not knowing that it is Karin's family, and reveal themselves to be the killers by accident. And then they are trapped in the barn and murdered by the father. And I mean, I don't. What else would you add? Is there anything?
I mean, it's absolutely that. It's I mean again like it's based on folklore. It's been remade umpteen times as Last House on the Left, which then got itself remade.
Yeah.
It is a very, very familiar story. It is at once like again, this is 1960. It won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film
Hmm.
when it came out. This is very much like in the birth of kind of the European quote unquote folk horror scene that was like kind of burgeoning out of Sweden and England and Germany and Italy. Um, but we're also touching into all of the Bergman faith territory. And also, it's one of the first rape revenge movies, even
Yeah.
though it's kind of fractured in a way that we would later not get in stuff like Straw Dogs or I Spit on Your Grave and stuff like that. Um, and everything that it does could be done in such a more cheap, exploitative, trashy, or kind of superficial
Hmm.
way. And all of those things were done later on in a myriad of other movies that followed in this movie's wake. But this movie has a very, very, very deft hand, and every single choice it makes is wildly correct.
I'm a huge folk horror guy. It's one of my favorite subgenres. And I didn't know that this movie contained that element. When I like look at a list of folk horror movies, generally the first movies that are going to be mentioned are like the unholy trinity. So Witchfinder General, Wicker Man, and Blood on Satan's Claw. And this movie came out a full 10 years before those movies. And I didn't expect that element and I loved it. So we open with the pregnant servant Ingrid saying a secret prayer to Odin. And we understand that prayer to the pagan gods seems to be banned in this house. The family's very Christian. They're sending their virgin daughter to take candles to the Virgin Mary at the church. So I loved this element of like paganism versus Christianity and what those two things might mean pitted against each other in terms of the movie.
Yeah, Bergman has a really, really, really contentious relationship with faith, period, and
Yeah.
Christianity especially. He was raised by his father was a pastor, his father was a preacher. So like Christianity is a large, large, large theme, and a lot of his work, Christianity, death, nature, the like concept of faith outside of conventional religion. If you know anything about him, you know like heavy-handed, black and white, and that. Which that's the presumption, and the more you watch his movies, the more human and like gentle and funny. This one's not as funny as something like The Seventh Seal
No,
has
it's
humor
not
baked into
particularly
it.
funny.
This
Yeah,
one is
very
very,
serious.
it's very serious, but it feels like he's guiding you and holding your hand the whole way through. It feels very tender in even its worst moments, which like is exactly what you need for this.
Mm.
But this movie is like if you watch The Seventh Seal, you could easily be like, oh, he's an atheist, he hates God, he hates religion, he hates Christianity. Got it. And then you watch The Virgin Spring,
I don't think
and
that's
there's
true. Yeah.
I don't think that's true at all. The Virgin Spring is very much a movie that questions religion, questions
Yeah. And to me,
God
it
and stuff like
seemed
that, but it ends in a way that is still celebratory of life and of faith.
literally ends with a miracle.
Yeah.
So to me, it seemed like Ingrid, the pregnant servant, who's sort of like, she lives on the fringes because it's incredibly controversial to be an unwed mother, and she's
She's
observant.
currently pregnant during the plot of the
Yeah,
movie.
very
Yeah.
pregnant, about to burst, and
And it's
we
implied
know,
that she's pregnant not by choice as well.
yes, it
It's
is
implied that
heavily
it's
implied.
from rape. Yeah.
So she, we know, says a secret prayer to Odin. So she's secretly a pagan. She is pregnant, by way of a rape, most likely. And then we contrast her with Karen, who's Christian and a virgin. And we get a lot of time with them together. And it, in some ways, seems to imply to me that maybe paganism put us closer to nature, which is cruel, which is cruel. And so, like, someone on Letterboxd said something really smart, which is that when Karen is in that terrifying scene where she's going to be raped and murdered, you can see the moment on her face when she realizes that her purity will not protect her from
Yeah.
what's about to happen to her. And so it seems like the movie is suggesting that Christianity and purity and righteousness and all of that stuff will not protect us from the cruelty of life. But through Ingrid, it made me question, well, maybe this movie is saying that paganism, like I said, puts us closer to nature and also in that regard better prepares us for the cruelties of nature.
It's also important to note how Karen is raised and treated by her parents. They love her very, very much so. And the relationship that Max von Sydow, as her father, has with her is really, really beautiful and really, really touching. But it's really touched upon throughout the whole movie that she's spoiled, for lack of a
And
better word.
super naive.
Super, super, super naive. On their little quest, Ingrid kind of like gets mad at her and shames her for like dancing with a certain guy at a barn party the night before, and it's implied that that's the guy that assaulted her or like has at least been very, very rough with her in the past.
I
And
didn't catch
Karen
that.
is like, it doesn't matter. It's fine. Like, I'm not trying to take him from you. I'm like, she's trying to protect her and
Yeah.
she's only getting more frustrated with her. But her parents, like, The mother lets her sleep in that morning and is like,
Yeah.
oh, she's sick, this is fine, she doesn't have to take the candles, it's okay, someone else can take them. And the daughter says, no, I'm fine, I can do it, but I'll only do it if I can wear my best dress, and I'll only do it if I can wear my best boots, and I'll only
Yeah.
do it if she can come with me. And it's she's very, 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 very spoiled, and at every moment Ingrid is trying to like protect her. The moment where they part, Ingrid literally throws herself in front of her and says, go back home. These woods aren't safe. I'll take them.
Yeah.
And when she blithely is very confident and wants to keep going, Ingrid is like, all right, fine, fuck it. I'm turning around.
Yeah. And that scene that you mentioned, Ingrid basically is like, what's going to happen when one of these men wants to have his way with you? And Karen says, "Oh, I'll just scream and I'll fight him and then it will be okay." And you can tell that she really believes that. She's so
Yeah.
naive that she thinks that her yelling is going to stop a man from raping her, which happens literally 10 minutes later. She's raped
Yeah.
and murdered by this trio of men.
And the way she meets the trio, which, by the way, it should also be noted that the youngest of the trio is literally a child.
Literally a child. Yeah.
Literally a child who spends the whole movie terrified,
Yeah.
not like it does not partake in what the other two do. But she meets these three travelers who are immediately suspect, one of which who is missing a tongue, and they're like, oh yeah, he had a cutout by evildoers. And it's like, that's not how
Mm,
medieval
yeah.
travelers work. It's in fact the opposite. um but she's very immediately like friendly with them, and then when they talk her into turning around from her path, she very quickly agrees. And it takes her a lot of red flags go up before she starts, until it's entirely too late before she realizes the danger she's in. And she also like lies to them and kind of like boasts and gloats that she's from a fairly wealthy family, but she
Hmm.
lies about being from an even more wealthy family, that there's constantly servants like following her mother around, like,
Her dad wears a golden hat every day or something like that. Just something
yeah.
insane.
And there's a lot of pride and there's a lot of care, and it's very obvious that she like has been like lovingly been brought up and taken care of, but also like to a fault.
Yeah. That rape scene is really grisly in a way that
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting for a movie from 1960. There's no music, it's done in silence, it's very naturalistic. It's pretty brutal. And then Ingrid, the servant, is actually watching it from the woods and lets it happen and feels guilty because we later learned that she was praying for this to happen in a way. That's what she was praying to with Odin. So she carries this guilt for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Well, she it like watches from the woods and is holding a rock as if to come bash them in, help her. And you just watch her let it drop. And it's so fucking, there's so many very, very human moments like that through
Yeah.
this whole narrative that are so painful. Later on, after Karen has been murdered by the two brothers, um, just by bludgeoning her with a rock and then just leaving her there. They leave the youngest, who's again like no more than 8 years old, if that. They
Yeah.
leave him behind and they're like, we'll be back in a little bit. And he's just sitting there with the dead body. And then he hears something from her. It sounds like she's moaning in pain or something like that. And he rushes over, just kicks some dirt on her, and
Mm.
then like runs back away, hides, and throws up. It's oh my God, it's so hard to watch. And when they get to her house, not knowing it's her house, her like encampment where her family lives, the kid spends the entire time shaky and anxious and terrified. Again,
We have to,
not knowing
yeah,
what's in store, but just in general feeling an immense amount of guilt that he can't place.
yeah. We have to talk about the scene where Ingrid and Karin meet I guess you call him an oracle. So before they part ways, they come upon a man who lives in like a mill or like a water, like a water mill. Is that what you call those
Yeah,
things?
it's literally like right in the middle of a stream crossing. So
Yeah,
he has to help them with their horses across. Um, and he's an old man, like maybe blind in one eye or something like
blonde in
that.
one eye, seems to be able to tell the future. He's like an oracle in like an old Greek myth or something. I thought that scene was so interesting, and I wasn't sure what to make of it. I saw some people on the internet say that he seems to like represent the devil in Norse mythology, whoever the Norse version of the devil is, or Odin because he's got, he's like missing an eye, and I don't know.
Hmm.
I wasn't sure what to make of that. I did love it, but it's so
That
interesting.
that scene is also very, very upsetting because it's also implied that he's going to assault her as well.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
very, very strong that she has to flee from him. And the fact that like both girls get assaulted in the woods. And that's the other reason why later on when she sees Karen being attacked and she drops the rock, and when you don't know that that's what she's been praying to Odin about, you can kind of like buy into that of like she literally just had to escape this herself by the
yeah,
skin of her teeth, and now there's three people over there.
yeah.
Like, oh, it's
It made
so
me
fucking heartbreaking.
think of our fairy tales and parables. I thought of like Little Red Riding Hood, which if you haven't figured this out, is a parable about rape and like warning girls not to be by themselves on the road because of rapists. And spoiler alert, the wolf represents a man.
Yeah,
Um and just like how many of our stories are about rape in some way, like
yeah.
warning women about the dangers of being alone and like how terrible and pitiful that is.
And yet none of those are warning little boys uh not to
Yeah.
do these things. And there's kind of like an acceptance of like there is this evil in the world as well. Like we should acknowledge that there is because there's no like
Yes.
because again the whole point of this is the kind of like squeaky clean like Flanders Christian ideal like vision of the world where like everyone's good neighbor, come on down to the potluck
Yeah.
is uh naive at best.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I liked
Apparently,
that.
one of the early versions of the story apparently is about a father who loses seven daughters to seven rapists, and it's like
uh,
Jesus Christ. The European medieval people were not fucking around.
it's like the fucking iron claw of rape.
Yes. Yeah.
It's too
Awful.
many. Good God. I One of my favorite scenes in this movie. There's a lot of really, really, really powerful scenes in this movie that a lot of people talk about very, 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 very frequently. A lot of them are based with Max von Sydow, and I totally understand why. His
Who's
performance in this movie
incredible.
is incredible. Of course, like listeners who haven't seen a lot of Bergman movies before, he's in a good number of them, but almost everyone knows him as the older father from The Exorcist that performs the exorcism and
Hmm.
like umpteen other great movies. Fucking Star Wars right before he died. Like
Yeah.
he's a legend. And there's when he like finishes his vengeance and stares down at his hands with his wife behind him, when he has to pull a switch from the tree and like externalizes his grief into the tree. All of those are so goddamn powerful. The scene that really like planted itself inside of me and really, really got under my skin and moved me this time is that when all of the traveling murderers and thieves, I guess we'll say,
Hmm.
come to their home and stay the night, um, they all kind of have their little like hay beds. They tuck the one of the housekeepers tucks the young boy into his bed, and then one of the farm hands who the whole time has been like talking about how he's the one that's traveled Europe and he's seen the great cathedrals of Europe and like how much Christianity is appreciated and welcomed in that part of the world and like how beautiful it all is, and he's frequently quoting poetry or writing his own poetry throughout the movie. he sidles up next to the kid while in bed, like lit only by a little bit of candlelight, um, and is trying in a way to reassure him because they all can tell that this kid is very anxious and nervous this entire time.
Hmm.
And they're doing their best to like give them food, give them like a warm place to be. And he tries to reassure this kid and get him to calm down by telling him that like God is there to take care of you and help you. But he does it in the most disturbing, threatening, and ominous way possible. He like leans into this kid. It's all done in these really powerful close-ups and tells him that like one day you're gonna find yourself walking through an abyss and you can't see anything around you, and the road will be as thin as your thumb, and you won't be able to find your step, and you'll think you're gonna fall into the pits of hell at any moment. And you'll get through it. And then you're gonna find yourself at an even deeper chasm where the ground like sinks out to infinity and arms will be grabbing up at you trying to pull you down and you'll get through, and he keeps like describing more and more hellish situations and being like assuring the kid that he will go through all of that, but then following it up with the kind of like, but never saying God will get you through it, never saying Christ will get, but just saying in general like you will get through it.
Yeah.
It's so terrifying and menacing because the kid is also playing it still terrified and anxious. And he's very kind of cryptic as he's telling this, but it is very weirdly hypnotic and very weirdly comforting. And it is like comes from a very dark kind of medieval view of Christianity that I kind of don't hate, that I think is it it's presented in a way that is religious but feels secular. Um
Yeah.
I really, really, really love that scene. It moved me so much. And spoiler alert, when Saito gets revenge, he gets revenge on all three of them. And it's
Yes, including the little
fucking
boy.
heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, and it's also another theme in the movie that I really like is that the idea that getting revenge won't help you. There's like a hollowness to revenge. Like you want it, it drives you, you get it, and then you're still empty. I love
Yeah.
movies that are about like, the hollowness of revenge. I love Kill Bill. I love Blue Ruin. I love, there's like a ton of movies that are about that I love. I do
Mhm.
love a revenge story so much.
I love that in the process of getting revenge for the taking of innocence, innocence must also be taken.
Yeah.
It's oh my God. This poor fucking kid. That poor fucking girl. It's just
Yeah.
ugh.
And then the whole family Ingrid takes them to where the body is, which is in the forest, of course. And when they lift her body, a spring appears miraculously beneath her head, and they all bathe themselves in the spring. And that's the end, but it's staged in a way that looks like a giant medieval painting, which a lot
Yeah.
of this movie looks like, it's staged in such a way that it looks like an enormous painting, and it's
Every time they sit down
so
to a
beautiful.
meal, it looks like the Last Supper.
The Last Supper,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, just such a gorgeous movie. The black and white cinematography is beautiful. I just love this movie. It's so deep and rich, but simple, and there's not an ounce of fat on it. Like it
Mm-mm.
is both so simple and so deep, and I think it's kind of a miracle in that regard.
Yeah. I deeply love that final sequence of almost the funeral trek into the woods to recover her
Yeah.
body because it really drives home something that's been in the background of this whole movie, which is the sense of community that this family has, even in their
Hmm.
very small, isolated way. Um, and it's something that pops up through almost every Bergman movie. Even something like Through Glass Darkly, which is just a handful of characters on an island, or Persona, which is basically a two-hander.
Yeah.
The Seventh Seal is about building a community and building friendships in the face of imminent death.
Hmm.
And Wild Strawberries is about connecting with your family and community in the face of imminent death. Um, and Fanny and Alexander is about the like theater, family, and community around these two children that raise them. And it's really, really, really beautiful how much these are like effortless elements of Bergman's films and stories that just really drive it home. I'm so much of playwriting and screenwriting nowadays feels very character driven in a way that feels very post Paul Schrader of like God's lonely man. This is this person's story. This is these two people's story or something like that. And
Yeah.
you don't get a sense of the world or the community around them, or when you do, it feels like, kind of cut and paste. Like, here's this person and bye. And that's their
Well,
best
this
friend. And you're
feels,
like,
to use a highfalutin theater term, this feels like Brecht. Not
yeah,
not that it's Brechtian, because it's not actually Brechtian in style, but it is like Brecht in that he is using archetypes that could be viewed as shallow, but are given depth because we all have lifetimes full of associations with these archetypes that we bring with us to watching this. So it gets to be both simple and spare on a story level, but also incredibly deep and rich because of the images and the archetypes that he uses. So your term effortless, I think, is perfect. It feels effortless. It feels like I know it's not because it's a movie and movies are hard to make, but it just feels like it just appeared out of thin air, fully formed and perfect one day. It's just a miracle of a movie.
the production design is also fucking wild. They
Yeah.
recreate this entire like encampment that they live in, this farm, this whole house, this whole like battlement around it, and all the other little outposts along the way that they get to. And they're all made out of wood, and it literally looks like they just brought some cameras to the Middle Ages. Like
Yeah.
it all
It's so
looks
good.
the same. It looks like they stepped into Ren Fair. It
Well, that
it's
I read
incredible.
that apparently at the time, some people criticized the Seventh Seal for not feeling quote unquote accurate enough to medieval Europe. So he wanted this to feel more like the muddy, dirty medieval period, which
Yeah.
mission accomplished as far as I can tell.
I mean, I'm not super well versed in the look
Nor am
and
I.
feel of medieval Europe outside of like Terry Gilliam movies.
Yeah.
Jabberwocky being incredibly accurate to the point that it's hard to watch. But Seven Seal feels very, very grounded and realistic to me in that way. And Seven Seal
Well,
is
also, like,
very
who cares
muddy.
if it is or isn't? You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't matter. It's such a beautiful, stylish movie that I'm like not very concerned about that issue, but it is, it is worth saying that that's how
Y-
some people felt.
it's interesting. Before I showed Virgin Ring to Ivory and we rewatched it for this was her second Bergman movie after seeing The Seventh Seal. And I kind of prefaced it as being like, we're doing this one for the podcast. It was remade by Wes Craven. And it's kind of viewed as like one of his two horror movies. There's this and there's Hour of the Wolf that kind of land in that genre. And
Hmm.
he tiptoes around it a little bit in Fanny and Alexander and a little bit in The Magician and stuff like that. Um, and he's made comedies and he's made a lot of other different kinds of movies, and he does occasionally tip into genre. And these are the two that I would call horror. And she
Yeah.
asked me something that I've never thought about in my entire life, which is what genre would The Seventh Seal be?
Well, I was gonna say, like, it's not horror, but it is like gothy.
Yeah.
It's certainly
It's
gothic.
it handles ideas, concepts, and images that are handled in horror movies like Ken Russell's The Devils and like The Exorcist. And it does tiptoe into things like that. It has a personification of death. It deals with the Black Plague. It deals with all of those things, but it never feels like a horror movie or a genre movie, which again, like to the art house fare of it all is like in its benefit, especially in the late 50s. Um, but it,
I mean, it's about such giant things like the plague and stuff. I wonder if you could call it like a passion play, like a medieval passion play, or an
hmm,
epic, or something like
yeah,
that.
an 89-minute epic.
Yeah, but it is really. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, it's not
um,
different like narratively from like the work of Homer.
right, exactly. It's got
You
that kind of,
I mean, he's literally a knight of the Crusades on a long quest back home
yeah,
that in which his party grows, shrinks, and goes through multiple obstacles. Like, I don't
yeah.
know. I don't think of Bergman's movies on the whole as being within genre or not, but a lot of what we do on this podcast is talking about the way in which art house films and genre coalesce in like the space that is art house horror. So
Yeah,
when we dip into these like big auteur filmmakers like Bergman, it's very interesting to view them through the lens of genre because like again to the kind of effortless thing, he doesn't really think about genre. He just thinks about all of those things are just like intuitive and just like dip in as needed, but they're never the overarching thing. I was always told that Hour of the Wolf is his horror movie, and it's not.
same. No, I
It's
think
a
it's
Bergman movie, and it has
yes.
the most horror elements of his stuff, but it's not a horror movie.
But this movie's horror bona fides are undeniable. I mean, it
Exactly.
directly, I mean, Last House on the Left is a direct remake of this,
Yeah.
according to Carpenter. Or sorry, Wes Craven. Um, well, I fucking loved this. Could not have loved it more. I will return to this over and over again for the rest of my life. So thank you, Greg, for introducing me to Bergman. I'm very appreciative. Let's pivot and play our favorite game. Have they seen it? The game where we speculate wildly whether notable figures have seen this movie. I have somebody, he's a filmmaker. He's very proud of things that he hasn't seen. But do you think Darren Aronofsky has seen
Knew
The Virgin
exactly who you're
Swing?
going to on that. Um, I feel like on the one hand, he very famously hasn't seen a lot of important movies, especially
Yeah,
genre movies. So probably not. But on the other hand, he's very pretentious.
yeah,
So I could absolutely see there's a world in which he's seen at least a handful of Bergman films. And I mean stuff like Mother feels like how could you make that
yeah,
without seeing Bergman movies?
yeah. That's like fucking with the Bible.
Yeah. Um, so I'm gonna say that for once, Darren Aronofsky has seen this. However, I'm gonna say that with a caveat of I only think he's seen a maximum of 5 Bergman movies.
Fair.
If
That's
that,
fair.
I feel like he's seen this. I feel like he's seen Persona. I feel like he's seen
Seventh
Seventh
Seal.
Seal, and then like maybe Autumn Sonata, maybe Wild Strawberries.
Yeah. I loved Cries and Whispers. That was one that I really loved.
I really need to revisit Cries and Whispers. It's one that I watched in that like kind of gauntlet of Bergman that I did, and it didn't
Yeah.
stick with me in the way that like Winter Light did or Summer with Monica did. But I really, really, really that and The Silence I need to revisit. And then there's a handful of others that I haven't seen still, like Passion of Anna, Scenes from a Marriage, Face to Face, Serpent's Egg, stuff like that.
Mm.
I will say a deeply, deeply, deeply underrated one that I think you would like a lot is The Magician.
Okay. I do have that one, I believe.
It's also medieval. It has a lot of humor to it. It also has a lot of horror elements. It's very fun. There's also like a drag character,
Oh,
a
interesting.
character in drag for half the movie. It's very good.
Who do you have for me?
I have someone who is Swedish and who we know has very adventurous tastes in movies, especially in what he's been working on lately in the um, great filmmakers he's been working with lately, like Brandon Cronenberg and Robert Eggers. But also, I've been watching a lot lately because I've been watching True Blood for the first time.
Oh.
You think that Swedish acting family lineage, Alexander Skarsgård has seen The Virgin Spring.
There is no universe where Alexander Skarsgård has not seen this movie, right? I mean,
Yeah,
his family is so sophisticated. He's so sophisticated. He's starring in The Northman. He's on Succession. He's doing all of these like sort of classy things. I think he must have seen this.
I think he's definitely seen this. Did you know that Bergman wasn't well regarded in Sweden until the past like 10 or 15 years?
Oh, is that right?
He was kind of viewed as hacky and ham-fisted in Sweden
Oh,
until around his death.
that's crazy.
It
Well,
wasn't
there's still a global family. You know what I mean? I think that they would
exactly.
have an outside of Sweden perspective just the same.
And I think also from like an acting and performative, like and like working in theater and working in film perspective, it's very much like essential. Again, like I see Bergman as like the Shakespeare of cinema. Like it's truly
Yeah,
foundational, like 101 stuff. Like,
it's so good.
God, it's heaven to me.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you have anyone else in mind, Josh?
This person came to my mind out of the pure blue sky, and this is someone that I know personally a little bit. So be kind, just in case. Although I think that you probably like this person. Do you think writer of Scream, Kevin Williamson,
That's who
has
I was
seen
gonna say.
Ingmar Bergman?
I was about to say, like, remaking this launched Wes Craven's career, and then working with Kevin
Yeah,
Williamson relaunched his career.
that's how I got there too.
um yeah, okay. um he also like is very well Raj. He also was the showrunner of a different tween vampire show in the mid
True.
2000s,
Yes,
Vampire
Vampire
Diaries.
Diaries.
um I think he has seen this, but I feel like he probably has that big honking cereal box sized Bergman box set in his home somewhere.
Yeah, he is very well watched. His taste is
Eclectic.
eclectic, but I would say unpretentious.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna say something that might be spicy. I don't think that this is a pretentious movie. I
I
think
don't
that
think it
this
is either.
very simple and just simple and elegant. I think he's seen this too.
Yeah, I feel like this is maybe one of the most accessible gateway movies into Bergman. If you like were teaching a film course, or you knew like a teenager who was like getting into movies and stuff like that, and you
Yeah.
wanted to recommend them Bergman, based on their tastes, there's a handful of different inroads and stuff. But if you knew someone who was into horror movies, or like into medieval and fantasy, like video games and movies, and had like a theater background or anything like that, or like liked the Ren Fair, or like were a little gay, like like I don't know. I feel like this is the movie that I would start a lot of people off with Bergman. Obviously, The Seventh Seal is like the here's what he is
Yeah,
thing,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I also understand that that movie is not easy for some people. I've
Hmm.
recommended it to a lot of people. It hasn't always been a roaring success with people, which is
Ooh,
disappointing to
interesting.
me.
That's disappointing.
However, I mean, I think that movie's really easy to watch. I think it's really fun. I think it's really funny. I think it's really like surprising and inventive and like hypnotic, but that's just me. I understand that I do have pretentious tastes with movies a lot of the time,
Me
but
too, sometimes. Yeah.
okay. So uh talking about the like lineage of rape revenge and pseudo home invasion movies,
Hmm.
they really like sparked off a little over 10 years after this movie was made in the 1970s. Again, Wes Craven would remake it. We would get stuff like I Spit on Your Grave. We would get a whole myriad of them from Italy and stuff like that. Um, but one of the most well regarded, and one of maybe my favorite that falls into that genre, and I know is a favorite of yours, and we've talked about it recently, I think in the last
Hmm.
episode even, is the Susan George and Dustin Hoffman led movie Straw Dogs. Um,
Incredible movie.
an insanely outlier film from its director Sam
Hmm.
Peckinpah, who's most well known for American westerns like The Wild Bunch and Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, and occasional contemporary crime movies like The Getaway with Steve McQueen, but certainly not like UK set like psychological home invasion and rape revenge movies.
Yeah,
Um, I fucking adore that movie. We'll get to it eventually.
it's so good.
Um, do you think Sam Peckinpah saw The Virgin Spring?
I do because, it came out in 1960. He's an
Hmm.
adult in 1960, right? He's already making movies. I feel like he must have.
Yeah, it's not too long after Ride the High Country, so he was already directing. He'd already
In
like
the
gotten in the
60s,
saddle.
right. And the 60s too was a time when everybody was going to see movies like this, right? So it's
The
like,
new
ooh,
wave was a big deal.
everyone's got to go see the Yellow Door or whatever. You know what I mean? It was like such a moment of that where it's like European films were very hot. Everyone was doing things that were intellectual and outside of their comfort zone. So I would think yes.
It was very easy at that time to go see a Bergman movie at one theater. There's a new Fellini movie down the block, What's that new
Exactly.
Japanese
Yeah.
movie that they've got over there? There's something new from France, from the new wave going on over there. So there's a lot of that. And I think like Roger Corman put out a lot of Bergman movies. Like,
Yeah.
they were very, very, very accessible at the time. I mean, I always think about in a lot of John Cassavetes movies from the 60s, like Faces and stuff like that, there's always characters being like, you want to go to the village tonight and watch a Bergman movie?
Yeah. That's just
Like,
how the time was. Like normal yuppie people went and saw these weird movies.
yeah.
Um, you said Japanese movie, and it made me realize we forgot to mention that Kurosawa was as much as we talk about Bergman being foundational, he was influenced by Kurosawa and basically
Mhm.
said that this was like him trying to do a Kurosawa film. So that's like important factoid.
Rashomon being the main
Exactly.
touchstone there, which came out a few years before in the 50s, and also deals with a rape in the forest.
Yeah.
But in a different way. I think they're, again, like, this is such a great kind of example of something that I think gets brought up a lot with people that know that are filmmakers and writers that are kind of struggling because we live in such a like post meta like media landscape of like every story's been done. Like, meanwhile, like all studios want to like greenlight is IP, and so many like new screenwriters are being taught to only write what they know, and like if you haven't lived it then you're not valid and you can't
All that
like
stuff is such garbage.
all of these things, and I just want to spew whenever I hear
Yeah.
any of that. And it's so important and enriching and helpful to fucking like read some like God, who wrote Edward the Second? Fucking what's his name?
I have no
Oh my
idea.
God. Anyway, he was Christopher Marlowe. To go like back and like read some Christopher Marlowe and Shakespeare, to go watch some Bergman and Kurosawa or like Buñuel and be like, oh yeah, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time.
Yeah.
That's actually not the point.
Yeah, I heard somebody, I think it was the guy who made Field of Dreams, maybe even like the movie I've never seen, but I guess somebody told him like,
Me neither.
like, is it okay to make another baseball movie? And he was like, yeah, if it's a good one. And that's how I feel about
Yeah.
everything, basically. Like, yeah, if you do it well, it's worth doing. Um, well, loved this movie, could not have loved it more. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Bloodhouse. If you liked it, please rate it wherever you listen to podcasts. You can email us at bloodhousepod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter or Instagram. Drusilla, where can people follow you?
You can find myself and my art over at my website, which is sisterhidedesign.com. Lots of fresh new stuff up there. Go check that out. I'm also on Letterboxd. If you look for Sister Hyde or Drusilla Adeline, you'll find me over there, and you can see what I've been watching on the Criterion channel lately. A lot of really fun stuff. And you can follow me on Instagram if you look for Hyde Sister. I am very strongly not on Twitter once again, so you can't
Good
find
for
me
you.
there. What about you, Josh? Where can people follow you into the forest?
You can follow me on Blue Sky or Instagram or Letterboxd at Joshua Conkel. So next week we're continuing on and touching on another heavy hitter auteur that we haven't talked about on the show. Who is it and what are we watching by him?
We're talking about maybe the single greatest American auteur filmmaker of all time, in my
big
opinion.
Claim. Big
Claim. I mean, this guy touched every single genre there is. He made one of the best westerns of all time. He made one of the best noir films of all time. He's made multiple of the best comedies of all time. He's made one of the few genuine like American surrealist films of all time. He made one of the best teen comedies of all time. And he occasionally dipped his toe into the horror landscape. And this also kind of falls into the like Haley Janine's House of Psychotic Women faux horror landscape, very like post Polanski. We will be talking about the UK set Robert Altman directed feature film and fucking classic Images.
Oh, I can't wait. I love this movie so much. Bye.